Welcome to the Haunted Music Box's coverage of Squid Game. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Reed, and my co-host Luke Huffman will join me in just a moment in our conversation about episodes 1 and 2 of Squid Game. We are recording these episodes as spoiler-free as possible, so we will only discuss the events of episode 1 and 2, although there are some very light spoilers for episode 3. Proceed with caution. We're still working on our final episode for Midnight Mass, but we want to get started with our Squid Game coverage because we love Squid Game and want to talk about it. Yeah.
It's too good. Everyone's talking about it because why wouldn't you? Because it's amazing.
And it's almost impossible to stop watching once you start. It is so addictive.
They're real shitbirds about that, you know? The writers, they makes me real mad and also pleased at the same time. Every time an episode ends, I'm like, damn you.
You can't.
Thank you.
You can't not continue.
Nope. Yeah,
Unlike
I mean, it's
the people playing the game.
No, it's all like the people in the game. We're all in this together, guys. No, I'm imagining the immense anger I would feel toward the show if this was released in a traditional format, where I had to wait a week or two.
Oh my God, something. Can you imagine?
between it is, I think, very much native to the binge world, for sure. And so I think that allowed the writers to just amp up it's like, I feel it's like the last 10 years of internet research of like what will make a human being click on this has been devised into the last 10 seconds of every episode. And then like, I have to click next.
I mean, which is interesting because this was actually written like 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because the creator tried for a long time to get it picked up, and originally I think originally wrote it as a movie and then like rewrote it into a series.
I'd be very curious to see
some things on. Yeah,
curious to see the iterations and like what changed between ideas like this will be a movie, this will be a series, this will be a Netflix series.
I'm so glad it is as popular as it is internationally right now, because I think that makes it way less likely that we'll get a horrible American remake, because there's no reason to do a remake when everyone has already watched the original, which, you know, we might not be so lucky with like Train to Busan.
It's already in the works.
I don't like to think about it. It makes me sad.
Yeah. But this, speaking of Train to Busan, we've got at least 1 star of Train to Busan in this amazing series.
He's very hot.
I mean, just objectively, like
just a very attractive person. Yeah.
I feel like my grandma,
we saw him, we were like, oh my God.
Even like my grandma, I feel would be like, oh, he's handsome.
I don't think anyone can deny it. Like immediately, if you say like I mean, maybe not, because there are a lot of very attractive people in Squid Game, but like one of the many very attractive people in Squid Game, he's one of the first that comes to mind for me.
So as a series, we've got how many episodes? We've got 7? 9. Okay.
9. Yes. So we're going to do like we did for Midnight Mass, like an episode per every 2 episodes until we get to the last episode. And then we'll do kind of our big extravaganza on the last episode and like the whole series with a song, which is what we're still working on for Midnight Mass and should come out sometime. We'll see.
Yeah. So how should we jump in? Do you want to do any summary of plot before we jump into analysis? What do you think?
If you want to, we can try to do the like 1 minute summary thing. I thought that might be harder for like 2 episodes of TV.
It would
I was
be
gonna make you do an overarching summary at the end of the series.
I mean, I could try. Let's do it. I think I'm ready. What's
You
the main
ready?
guy's name? Song
Gian,
Gi-hun.
are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently Dracula is asking. Okay. Okay, we're going to have Luke try to do a 1 minute summary of episodes 1 and 2 of Squid Game. And go.
All right, so this is dude who lives in Korea with his mom in a shitty small apartment. Turns out he's kind of a shitbag son, and his mom is like sad and desperately trying to provide for him and telling him to get his shit together. He's sad because he's like lost his job, it seems like, and well, he has a daughter and it's her birthday, so his mom gives him some money to buy her a little something, so he goes and gambles it like a crazy man.
30 seconds.
Loses a lot of respect in her eyes, and then he like does more intense gambling, and then it gets more out of hand, and then he suddenly starts playing for his life, and he meets a lot of people and makes friends in this really cute way, but that's also incredibly scary and sad. And then they go to this scary game thing. Everyone's playing and it's like, oh my
5
God,
seconds.
they're gonna kill us. And then they're like, you can go home. And they all do, but then they come back and they're like,
1
oh my
minute.
God, I guess we have to do this.
I mean, I feel like those are the main events of episodes 1 and 2. I guess we have to do this.
Coming back to it, you know.
That's how
you can go home.
Work.
You can go home. You can come to this. You can come to the surrender of sadness by yourself. Of like, this is it. This is my lot.
Surrender of sadness. Wow.
Accepting. This is my life now. Welcome to 2021.
It's
you can pretend for a minute.
Exactly an uplifting show.
We don't deal with that here.
Yeah, very few of the things we consume here on the Haunted Music Box are what I would call like feel good things. But this one is such a sharp commentary that it feels like it's incredibly well done, and there are so many moments of like, wow, this works on so many different levels and like really hits you in the feels, but sometimes it hits me in the feels in a way that I'm like, oh, this hurts, because it's like almost too true to life sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of articles popping up about like, why is Squid Game resonating so hard with American audiences right now?
I think that's hilarious that people like need to ask that question.
And I think I agree. Like it seems to resonate with how I think a lot of people are feeling right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that works as a metaphor for how uncaring capitalism is, and like the violence of it all is appealing because everyone is sad.
It's affirming. I feel like it's affirming.
Yeah,
it all feels very like it's all a very intense, screwed up show, but it also, a lot of it feels very inevitable. And like, that seems right.
Yeah,
like emotionally and all those things. Like, obviously there are twists and turns and things like that, but there wasn't a ton in the show that felt like like a completely foreign feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is what's so interesting about it, is that, it's this international sensation. Like, people all across the world love Squid Game, but it's in South Korean, and we still, like, it resonates so much with so many different people, I think, because of like how specific the criticisms are. It's like that thing that always ends up being true, that like the more specific you get, kind of the more universal things become, because you
Mhm.
do a better job of articulating it, and so more people are able to relate to it, even if they haven't had exactly that experience. Because I should hope that most people have not had the experience of like ending up in a weird warehouse in the middle of nowhere playing a violent like battle royale style fight to the death game. uh but maybe some things in life feel metaphorically like that a lot
Making
of the time.
money.
Having to make money, that rat race. Yeah.
Yeah, it can feel that way. Um,
Yeah.
and in many ways, the like zero sum game of it all, of like,
Yeah, it's
I,
absolutely brutal.
yeah, the like, in order for me to make it, I have to trot on someone,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Anyhow, let's. I think one of the really incredibly strong features of this series is the characters, and of course, like the acting is astonishing. But the
Hmm.
character development, even in the writing, is really good.
Yeah.
Um, we start out with Gi-hun, but like it very quickly, it moves. The whole series moves pretty deftly and quickly, and we are introduced to characters. And I remember, I think by the end of the second episode, I was like, I feel like I know a lot of these characters. I
Yeah.
mean, like, yes, there are many characters. Uh, Lost had many characters, but I didn't know this much about the cast of characters
Right.
by up to.
You knew about Jack and Kate.
So like their ability to pack in, how it's a magic trick, right? Like they're packing in so much in a really short period of
Yeah.
time with their storytelling.
Yeah. Especially in episode 2, you just learn so much about different people's backstories. Like the little brother in the shelter or the orphanage is really, really devastating, that like, oh, mom is gonna come back soon. um all the like with Ali's family. I
His
did
wife.
think we did have a like, I kept saying I thought it was strange that he kept saying like I love you and our child, and just never would say like the child's name. And then you said, well, maybe they wait longer to name the kid or something. That could be it. But I did have a question about that. He just kept being like, I love you
And
and our child.
but what about the baby, the child, the
Yeah,
boy, our boy?
there's no naming of the child. The child shall not be named, but he does love him.
That's season
Or
2.
them. We don't even know if we get, I don't think,
I thought it was a boy,
any
but
pronouns. Was there? Okay. Maybe when, I think later when he's talking to
yeah,
Songwoo
it's later.
about his family. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry, we're getting off track. That might be a spoiler that they talk about family at some point. Light spoilers.
I love the really fairly diverse representation of society in the doghouse that is the games.
Hmm.
We have Gion, who was sort of probably middle class, but has slipped into being definitely below the poverty line.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
his best friend, who is the businessman who went to SNU and
The
made tons
star child.
who made tons of money, and he's also still there. There's an old man, there's Ali, the immigrant, there's the sort of like stereotypical criminals with tattoos.
Hmm.
It's a pretty broad swath.
Yeah.
And I think that just gives the writers so many opportunities to explore social
Yeah,
nuances, and this is definitely a show that's very interested in examining society and all
absolutely.
that. And
Yeah.
so
And the many different ways people can end up crushed by the system.
mhm, mhm,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, in the same fight basically.
Hmm.
But
Absolutely.
um
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like you learn so much about Guion just like very quickly in the episode, just in the way that he interacts with his mom. Immediately made me laugh really hard too.
mhm,
Like he immediately comes across as this kind of like goofy and like annoyed that he has to do like any amount of work, which is very relatable also.
mhm.
But it's like as soon as his mom says, like, I can't remember his daughter's name, but she's telling him, like, it's her birthday. Remember, she likes fried chicken. And he's like, oh, yeah. Like, shouldn't I get her a present too? I'll take her out to eat. And it's like, as soon as she says that, you just know that like he's not gonna get her that fried chicken. Like something is gonna happen where he is gonna somehow like blow the
Mhm.
money in some way, because you already just have such a sense of his character from his actions and his interactions with his mother in the beginning. And
And at the
it's
same
really
time,
smart storytelling.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know right away this is an incredibly flawed protagonist.
Yes.
Um, at the same time, I like that they show him doing something stupid, but it actually working out
Mm-hmm.
because he makes money.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows how he could fall down this path of seeing how this might be a way.
Mm-hmm.
And also that, like, sometimes things that look really stupid from the outside can sometimes work
Mm-hmm.
when you are impoverished and just like working to
Yeah.
figure out a way out. But the system is definitely against you, and that like he does get all the money, and then not only would he have lost it to the debt collector who was coming after him, he was also robbed in the process of getting the things stolen from him. So like the sort of real tragedy of that just it reminds me of like Russian literature, or like
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it definitely has that sort of like nihilist element.
it's like layers of tragedy of
I
like,
didn't even think about that, but of course you would connect it to Russian literature.
of course I would. The пожалуйста.
Deeply on brand for Luke.
It's true. But no, there's just like the layers of like ironic tragedy that just keep happening on top of each
Yeah,
other that make these characters like terrible people, but also relatable,
yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
and like parts of life that we feel like are these private ways that we feel like, oh my God, my life is the worst, but
Yeah.
this
I
terrible
mean,
bad luck that happens to me.
this terrible bad luck that I kind of like keep making happen
Yeah.
by
And that
making this one like bad choice that's very tantalizing. Yeah.
and that I'm about to be introduced to like 200 other individuals who they're going to play video of making
Mm-hmm.
bad decision after bad decision after decision.
Mm-hmm.
But also, yeah, it's really interesting the ways in which there's a like system level above grounds, like bird's eye view of society that happens in the show, and like ideas about like fate and determinism and all those things a little bit. But it's also a very close up show where it
Yeah,
shows the emotional weight and the ways in which it's hard to see those things when you're inside of it.
absolutely. Like it really, really highlights the way that certain structures are so manipulative, like of course, like people end up losing a bunch of money gambling because like it's set up to manipulate them and make them feel as if like the next round is what's going to make me all that money. And we know that it's addictive too, and yet it's still something where organizations can kind of prey on people. So it's like you can see how someone like Gion could end up in this situation. And it's like he is, to an extent, like choosing to participate in something, but it's also a manipulative structure in the first place, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Well, and
and
like,
it's really fun to kind of watch that escalate, like that exact situation escalate for him. Um, and again, it's that feeling as soon as there is like the idea that he's being offered something that is more dangerous and more intense, he's going to end up doing it, because he's not capable of saying no when the offer is, oh, you could make more money though.
he's desperate, and
Mm-hmm.
being desperate makes you make desperate choices.
Yeah, and the
Um,
episode is so good at showing like how he's desperate in every different way. Like his mom is obviously annoyed at him, but then when he goes to the ATM and the guy is kind of standing like commenting on him not knowing the PIN number anymore, and it's like, oh, she finally cut you off. So like in his community, he's sort of thought of as like a hanger-on to his mom, and there's got to be a certain amount of humiliation in that. But then you also see, him sort of not being the best father to his daughter, and then having to deal with potentially losing his daughter because her stepdad wants to move her very far away and cut her off from him. And yeah, it's like you see all of these different ways he is desperate and just like kind of really in the worst possible situation, both financially and like emotionally,
I think also uh, he really embodies the way in which I think many people today live with this sort of like double thought process of like, on the one hand, probably most people in the world think like a lot of the world is kind of
Mm-hmm.
rigged and rigged against them. Um, and, the gambler mindset is like, I know it's rigged, but I have to try. And, maybe magically I will beat the system.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us do that just going to work,
Yep.
like I know it's
Yeah.
kind of rigged, but
Oh man, that feels like such a, I mean, to me, metaphor for academia.
yeah,
We don't need to go into that here.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about some of so we've talked about characters. What about like the action scenes and all that? I mean, it's both a very like intense personal drama, emotional drama, but
Mm-hmm.
is also an action show in certain ways.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I believe it's categorized as a thriller, right? uh yeah, the action sequences I think are really incredible, especially in the first episode, because there seems to be a real focus on just like how brutal and emotionless the violence is, like any little twitch gets people eliminated. And there's much more, I think, lingering kind of on like the camera getting close up and lingering more on like a death shot to the head and stuff like that. It seems like there's even more focus just on the violence in that first game, to really, really hammer it home. Like the people running this do not care about the people playing the game. They are just like objects to them.
Objects. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really, yeah, I think fully cements the objectification that happens in the
Mhm.
games. And um, we it's interesting, the very early on, the like moralistic rule making that is
Mhm.
baked into the games as if like they are fair and redeeming
Right.
of the participants. There's like an inherent sort of apologism of like defending the legitimacy of the games by
Mm-hmm.
making a show of rules.
Right.
When of
The
course, like,
rules are there to protect you.
yeah, in this system which is run by oligarchs and
If you follow the rules of the game, you won't be eliminated. But
Mhm.
the rules are absurd. The rules are insane. The rules do not make any sense when you really think about it.
They seem to
Hmm.
make sense from an entertainment perspective, but they don't make sense from an inside human
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so weird. It's like, can we connect that to anything else? Like, I don't know. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I like it. I love stuff that hates capitalism. It's great.
Yeah, and it like it doesn't use the word capitalism, which I think is really smart because
Yeah.
I think, I know that, so both of us obviously like have a history of studying words, smart
Yes.
words.
Smart
Um,
words.
but people in America and in certain places in the world really freak out when you use the word socialist or
Mm-hmm.
union or capital. Like it can really trigger intense cultural stuff. And in America, most people feel sort of ripped off. But if you say like, uh, capitalism is a rigged game, they'd call you a commie and they want to punch you. There's a like knee-jerk reaction, and so I think
Yeah.
it's really smart and that they don't explicitly say robber barons of capitalism, but you just see it happen
Mm-hmm.
and you can draw your conclusions about justice in the world based on what you
Yeah.
see. But
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's something I've seen people writing about too, is the kind of the weirdness of people like apolitically watching Squid Game or watching it and kind of refusing to recognize the criticism of capitalism and being like, no, that's not what it is. It's just a cool action show, which to me is so absurd. I cannot imagine how one could watch Squid Game without that being a really important part of it. I'm just like, that is so inherent to the entire meaning of the series to me. I can't imagine watching it and just being like, oh, cool, this is just like an action. This is an action show. There's nothing deeper here happening.
I mean, as in most of those
The character
scenarios,
study, that's
half of
it.
half of the people, I want to say, give it a second, think about it,
Just think
hang
about
on,
it.
and we'll talk in 2 weeks, and you'll come back and you're gonna be like, oh right, like the first time I ever read a like allegorical novel. But like, uh and then the other half are, probably like just can't go there because it fundamentally conflicts with things that they don't want to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So, you
Yeah.
know, what do you do? But
What are you gonna do?
um, really interested in uh, the introduction of multiple characters, braiding storylines, all that. But then there's also, even separate from all these characters in the game, the separate storyline of the police officer,
Mm-hmm.
um, who is
Junho,
Junho,
also very hot. So
is
many hot people
just
in this show.
gentleman. Ooh. Um,
Ooh,
he's got his own storyline that's sort of happening around the games, which is really interesting.
yeah.
And at the end of episode 2, we see him. I just the speed of the pacing of the action here, that he gets picked up and brought into the inside of the
The
games
pacing of this
by.
series is so good.
I didn't think he'd get in that quick.
Yeah,
He just.
they're not wasting any time. Really, like a lot of things happen in those first 2 episodes. Like the first game, they leave, they vote all together to leave, and then they all have disappointing experiences in the outside world. Although some of the like Gian and Oil Nam kind of like meeting in the outside world and having their little drink together was very sweet. I thought that was a sweet experience, but then they all decided to go back, and then we get a whole other storyline.
Yeah, really exciting, and gives a very strong sense of like, oh boy, what is
Oh
it?
boy.
What is Juno in for here? I don't know if he's ready for this.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I did not have a lot of hope for him when he like got into I am sorry if I'm talking about episode 3 now, so stop me if I am. Like when he actually got into the like car,
That's
the
the end of
SUV.
Ep 2, I think.
That's the end
Basically,
of Ep 2. I was very tense when I first watched that. I was just like, I don't think this is gonna end well for him.
he's just a beat cop. Like,
Yeah. I was like, he's too hot to he's so hot. There's no way he could also be very capable. And obviously, that is an incorrect thought. So, that was on me.
also very interesting. He is legitimately an action hero in all the traditional Western ways of like a James Bond and like whatever. He's doing the action adventure.
Yeah.
But much of what we will see in future episodes is that a lot of what he has to do is actually be quiet and listen and blend. Things that are very not actiony.
Yeah.
Traditionally, I can't really imagine
not that cinematic to blend.
like Indiana Jones lasting that long without making a quip.
Can you imagine?
He just wouldn't be able to not say,
most action
friggin' idiot.
heroes would not survive in real situations like that because they would out themselves by needing to say too many quips.
Yeah. So the introduction of a very interesting action hero, I think.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, fun. It's part of what makes it addictive too, is that they keep kind of bringing in these new elements. Like you start off, I don't know about you, but I started off very charmed by Gia, and like right away I found him so likable, even though he was, like kind of a goof in many ways and obviously flawed, but I just really liked him. I think so much of that is in the performance. Obviously, it's a great performance. But they were so good at like bringing in really interesting other characters and sort of like slowly building up more information about them as the show progresses, where you're kind of like, oh, I wonder what like new dynamic this character is going to bring out with this other character. Like the ways that the characters kind of push and pull on each other, I think is something I'm very excited to talk about as we keep covering this, because we have already watched all of this as we discuss it. So it's going to be harder for us to keep it spoiler free, but we're doing our best to keep it spoiler free and to mark any spoilers that we accidentally give. I don't think we've done anything to be sorry about so far, have we?
We've tried.
We've tried. We're doing our best.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to ask you your thoughts on the like robot doll, like gunslinging doll. What did you think of this doll? How do you think she compares like in the grand horror like lexicon of dolls doing doll stuff?
I mean, it was great. I think I think we are at a place as a culture where most people would say like clowns and dolls and stuff are creepy.
Yeah, right. There are enough Annabelle movies now that most people are creeped out by a certain type of
like
doll.
an old school doll, that just looks, and it looks like an old school doll,
or a Chucky type. Like it feels Chucky influenced as well.
This is not like so I thought that was fun. I thought the juxtaposition of a doll, which is a child's toy, with, I mean, the whole series is this way, right? Where they're playing
Mm-hmm.
children's games, but it's deadly serious and it's very
Mm-hmm.
adult and scary. Um, and so that juxtaposition is really fun, of sort of having guns and life-ending weapons in a doll and in the walls.
And in the walls.
I really honestly liked that detail, that it was all that there were guns also in the walls,
Yeah.
to just sort of reinforce, like, don't worry,
It
we
definitely, yeah, sorry. What were you gonna say?
just like, well, we will make sure you can go.
It adds to the kind of like Big Brother is watching feeling, you know.
Yeah,
I love
surrounded
the
feeling.
yeah, the intersection of so many different influences in horror and science fiction here, I think is really fun. Just that, you know, that's kind of a classic horror trope to take children's stuff and then make it dark. We've already talked about Chucky and Annabelle. But you know, that's such a classic horror thing. I think there's part of the like montage at the beginning of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I remember being like a zoom in on like a rocking horse in an attic or something, you know. It's like when we take children's things and take them out of context, especially if you add violence, it becomes much more disturbing. And I love that the series like plays with that, but then it has all these other science fiction things it's pulling from too. And it's just like aesthetically really fun. I love part of the thing being like, you know, whoever is in charge of these games, like aesthetic is important to them. We gotta have part of the facility look like an Escher painting, but much more colorful. Everybody needs to be in their pink jumpsuits. Very, very important to stick to an aesthetic.
So
I love
listen,
that. Sincerely, I love that so much. It's one of my favorite things about this. Love it.
when this is a troubling thing, in times of crisis.
Stick to your aesthetic.
Well, that always, but oligarchs tend to prefer fascism because over a rising up from the lower classes.
Oh,
Um,
really?
Shocking. And any student of fascism will know, unfortunately, fascists really dig aesthetics. They are like
Fashion.
into the fashion.
It makes sense. You want to
Uh,
make it more appealing because you're murdering a lot of people.
well, yeah, and you're pulling from the ranks of, I mean, real true angry fascists would probably not want this, but you're inevitably pulling from some sort of like noble uh, a sense of aesthetics and things like that. And yeah, it's just interesting the ways that like revolution and aesthetics end up getting tied together, or
Mhm.
violent politics and things like that. And
Absolutely.
similarly, I mean, like if you go to any dictator's palace, like most of them have astonishing beauty around them.
Just like
That's
opulence.
that's
Yeah.
typical for some of the most violent human beings on the planet, is that they
hmm
are surrounded by opulence, um, because they are precisely because they are extremely good at violence on a social and physical and all those levels. um,
I'm sorry, I keep laughing. I don't know why. I can't stop thinking about Jackie O saying, I love beauty.
would be interesting to see world leaders play in this game, like from
Mm.
through history, like the what was that show, was it on MTV, of the like celebrity death match?
Celebrity Deathmatch. What a show.
Yeah, the wonders of claymation and just irreverent
That was a time
whatever.
in our culture when Celebrity Deathmatch was a thing. And I used to watch it with my family sometimes. Wow.
It always made someone in the room uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
uh
would probably be very strange to rewatch.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to touch on for these two episodes?
Uh, I don't think so. I think like we are probably going to end up going longer on the other episodes because there's so much to talk about with this series. I mean, if we wanted to, I think we could go on and on and on about how good the writing and characterization is already, just the first two episodes in. But mostly I just am like, I think this is so incredibly well done. Everything about it is great. The pacing is very good. It's got me absolutely hooked 2 episodes in and just wanting to learn more about everyone. But it's also just incredible that they've made just kind of like the absolute highest stakes thing just work. That it's like everybody is at risk for horrible, violent death every episode. So you're always risking losing characters who are interesting. And I
The
think
stakes are high.
the stakes have never been higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I have watched a lot of Bachelor in Paradise, and I think some of the announcer things just they seep into my brain.
The competition aesthetic.
Yeah, the aesthetic.
Well, thank you for.
I'm excited to see where these contest, as they would say on Bachelor in Paradise, I'm excited to see where the contestants go with their journeys. Really looking forward to see how things develop here. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I hope that your journey is going well, and that it is a little less intense, maybe, than the journeys that we're watching here.
Fewer bullet holes, I hope.
We will be jumping in or back to Midnight Mass fairly soon. Yeah. We're hoping to bring a guest perhaps on the show for that episode. So please stay tuned for that. Anything else you want to plug before we?
Give us 5 stars on every app.
If you haven't given us 5 stars
and
by now,
write a review and we'll read it on the podcast.
I know who you are. I know your name. You. Hey, you listening. I know who you are.
That's right.
Give us 5 stars.
5 stars on Apple Podcasts, especially. That really helps people find us. But I believe you can now rate on Spotify. So you could also rate us on Spotify. That would be wonderful. You know, wherever it's convenient for you to rate us, please rate us. Yeah.
Also, if viewers, if you or listeners,
viewers,
if you, we'll see to be determined. If you have ideas for what you want us to watch next, please let us know. We have thousands of things we would love to talk about, but we are in the process of learning what to talk about when. So
we're swimming in ideas.
That said, though, we're trying to figure out what's the right thing for the right moment. So please send us ideas if you have any. We would love to hear from you.
We are very interested in covering more series because we really like getting to put out some shorter episodes faster and then spend more time on one long episode per series. So if you have ideas about series, let us know. Although I am sorry to report that I find most Ryan Murphy content extremely cursed and cannot cover American Horror Story or Ratched, but would love to hear other suggestions.
I don't know. I think it could be funny to torture you with it, but
I do not.
That's just most people don't like being tortured.
I think that people would hate me, and yeah, there are some things I'm like, I don't think people want my hot takes on these things because I think it'll make people mad, and I don't want people
always
to hate.
It's always good to know when are the hot takes.
That would presume that a lot of people are listening, and I know that only 21 people are listening, so I could only possibly piss off 21 people, but that's still more people than I would like to piss off. If you're listening and you're a huge fan of American Horror Story, just know that I would still like to be your friend, and I hope you don't hate me. It's just not for me.
She hates you. She really hates you.
She have issues with the ways Ryan Murphy tends to write women and horror.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.